Before the wedding, my fiancé's first love was forced into a strategic marriage with a notorious heiress known for being a man-eater. Unable to bear seeing her beloved suffer, she crashed his wedding. That very day they got married under the watchful eyes of everyone. The entire city waited to laugh at me and the Windsor family. Unexpectedly, the next day, the sole heiress of the Windsor Corporation brazenly parked her Bugatti at my company entrance. Your fiancé snatched my marriage partner. I need you to pay her debt by marrying me instead. That seems reasonable, doesn't it? Looking at her flamboyant, curly hair, I smiled and adjusted my glasses. Yes, quite reasonable. Victoria Windsor raised an eyebrow, surprised by how readily I agreed to her marriage proposal. A small stud near the corner of her brow glinted with the movement. But for people like us, perhaps marriage is just another weight on the scales of benefit, regardless of who it's with. So, after a fleeting moment of surprise, she reverted to her usual devil-may-care demeanor. All right, I'll come find you tomorrow to discuss the wedding details. Got to go deal with those old geezers back home today. So annoying, she muttered, tousling her already messy curls. I found it amusing and gently tucked a stray lock back from her forehead. No rush. Just contact me whenever you're free. She seemed pleased with my understanding nature, exchanged a few more words, and then sped off. I headed home as usual, only to find a rather off-putting figure waiting in front of my villa. Miss Ashworth, what a pleasant surprise. Instead of strolling down the main avenues, you've wandered into my private estate. Scarlett Ashworth looked awkward and offered a forced laugh. Sincere, don't be so sarcastic. I had no choice about what happened that day. You know Liam's personality, he suffers in silence. If he really married that Windsor playgirl, who knows how many times he'd be cheated on. I just couldn't watch him walk into that disaster. My expression remained impassive. She couldn't bear to see Liam walk into a disaster, yet she was content to let me, her fiancé, become the laughingstock of our entire social circle. What kind of logic was that? I didn't want to waste words on her and moved to walk past her towards my house. Unexpectedly, she reached out to take my arm, but I swiftly dodged her. If you have something to say it. Don't get physical. Sincere, what do you mean by this? Are you trying to cut ties with me? Even though I married Liam, I never said we had to stop seeing each other. It's just a marriage certificate. It doesn't mean anything. We can still be together. I just can't give you the official title, so you'll have to compromise a bit. But I believe, given your feelings for me over so many years, you won't mind, right? Scarlett's eyes shone with anticipation. My brow furrowed tightly. I couldn't fathom how such a shameless idea could even enter this woman's head. To blatantly suggest I become her lover? My anger turned into laughter. Scarlett Ashworth, you overestimate your importance. There's no possibility of reconciliation between us. From now on, we go our separate ways. Let's not stand in each other's paths. I spoke seriously, but absurdly, she seemed to think I was just throwing a tantrum. She tugged at my sleeve playfully. All right, don't be so serious. I know you're angry because I married someone else. I promise you I'll handle the relationship between you two fairly in the future, without favoring either one. You and Liam are both the people I love most. Even though he's my legal husband, I won't let him overshadow you, okay? It was like talking to a brick wall. I truly couldn't understand why my parents had chosen her as my fiancée back then. However, my upbringing didn't permit me to lose my temper with someone like her. Checking my watch, I decided to seize this opportunity to make everything clear. Scarlett Ashworth, let me be blunt. I have no romantic feelings for you. We just happened to grow up together, and our parents happened to push us together. All these years I've merely fulfilled the obligations expected of a marriage alliance partner. I wouldn't say I like you. As for who you truly love or want to marry, that has nothing to do with me. So, you don't need to come tell me these things, and I will not agree to your suggestion. Is that clear enough? If there's nothing else, please leave. I clearly saw the emotions shifting in Scarlett Ashworth's eyes as she heard my words, progressing from initial disbelief to outright fury. Her face flushed red. Sincere Clark, are you done yet? Do you have to deliberately lie like this just to spite me? I came to you personally. I apologized. What more do you want? Don't I have any pride? Even Liam could compromise and agree to this arrangement. What right do you have to refuse me being willing to let you be? My lover is already giving you too much credit. Go ask around the city which established family would care to associate with an upstart. Nouveau riche family like yours, only I wasn't bothered by it. You won't even take the olive branch I'm offering. You'll regret this with that. She stormed off to her car and drove away in a huff. Watching the exhaust fumes trail behind Scarlett's departing car, I had mixed feelings. To say there were no feelings wasn't entirely true. There was the bond of growing up together, after all. However, any lingering sentiment had long since eroded away during the numerous times she chose Liam over me, leaving me disregarded. Victoria didn't forget our agreement. Early the next morning, she arranged to meet me at an exclusive private restaurant. When I saw her again, I almost didn't recognize her. She had straightened her hair, removed the dramatic eyeliner and eyeshadow, and wore a simple white dress. I instinctively glanced at her eyebrow where the stud had been. As if sensing my question, she explained proactively. It was just glued on, for fun. What, you don't recognize me? I smiled. You do look quite different. Everything proceeded smoothly. We settled on the highest spec hotel and the grandest scale for the wedding banquet. As for the decorations and attire needed for the event, it was all left to Victoria's preferences, with me covering the costs. She tilted her head, looking at me while munching on a small pastry resembling a little hamster. All according to my taste? This is your wedding too, aren't you looking forward to it at all? I gave a non-committal response. Don't they say, listen to your wife and you'll get rich? I'm starting early, hoping the wealth lasts longer. Victoria chuckled at my remark. It was then I noticed how bright her eyes were, and the two small dimples that appeared on her cheeks when she smiled. She didn't seem like the wild party girl rumored in social circles at all. After finalizing all the arrangements, Victoria had family matters to attend to and left first. Once I tidied up, I prepared to head back to the office, only to run into Scarlett Ashworth and Liam Miller right outside the private dining room, apparently having just finished their meal. Both froze when they saw me. Scarlett was the first to react, sincere. What are you doing here? She looked at me, then at the empty private room behind me, a look of realization dawning on her face. Oh, you followed us here, didn't you? Otherwise, why would someone like you, who usually just grabs a quick bite, come to a place like this? I told you what you said the other day was a lie, but you insisted on being stubborn. What, does seeing me and Liam together make you uncomfortable? She wore a smug expression, and Liam beside her chimed in pretentiously. Forget it, Lin, don't say any more. Sincere must already be upset about not being able to marry you. It's all my fault, really. As Liam spoke, the car keys hanging from his wrist swung back and forth, intentionally or not, right in front of my eyes. It was a limited edition supercar released this year. The Miller family's financial situation couldn't possibly afford it, so it must have been a gift from Scarlett. Even he himself had been repackaged, decked out head to toe in luxury brands. It seemed Scarlett had really spared no expense on him. I suddenly recalled that when I was with Scarlett, I hadn't received even a tie, let alone a sports car. Not only that, but I frequently had to transfer money to her for her expenses and entertainment. She often complained about being short on cash, and I felt that since we were together, it wasn't worth fussing over who contributed more. Looking back now, it seemed she had considered me a gullible fool long before. Liam knew I had noticed the keys in his hand. When he looked at me again, his eyes held blatant smugness and ostentation. Before I could speak, however, Scarlett jumped in protectively. Why are you apologizing to him? He's the one who can't let go of me now. He should be begging us. She crossed her arms, tilting her chin up at me with a look of utter confidence. Let me tell you, Sincere, if you've changed your mind and want to get back together, it's not impossible. But my terms aren't the same as yesterday. You said so many nasty things to me last night. It's only fair you compensate me for emotional distress. $1 million a month in pocket money for me and Liam each. That's not too much, right? Also, new clothes and bags from every season must be sent to me first for selection. You absolutely cannot disturb me when I'm with Liam, and the wedding ceremony will only be held with Liam. If you can't even manage these basic things, then forget about reconciliation. She rattled off a list of rules like emptying a bamboo tube of beans. All the jokes I'd heard in my 25 years combined weren't as absurd as what she was saying. Hilariously, she still seemed to think that being with me was a great favor she was bestowing upon me. My gaze swept over the two of them, and I spoke calmly. Does the Clark Corporation need to organize a charity fundraiser for you too? I recently met a renowned neurosurgeon from overseas. I could make an introduction. Scarlett stared blankly for a moment, then her face instantly flushed red as she understood. What do you mean by that? I shrugged. Nothing much. Literal meaning. I'm saying you two are nuts. Scarlett's frantic screams faded behind me. Without looking back, I drove straight back to the company. Emotions are precious. I dislike wasting energy on anyone or anything unworthy. My wedding with Victoria was set for the 10th of next month. Since we were both busy, we simply agreed that I would go pick her up directly on the wedding day. Looking at the checklist sent by the wedding planner on my screen, I felt a momentary sense of surrealness. Not long ago, due to my fiancé's elopement, I thought marriage was likely off the table for me in the near future. Yet, in the blink of an eye, I was actually getting married. My mother, Eleanor, worried that I was emotionally scarred and had hastily found someone just to go through the motions. She called to earnestly try and persuade me otherwise. I stubbed out my cigarette. For some reason, the bright image of Victoria blocking my way at the company entrance flashed through my mind, and the small dimples at the corners of her lips when she smiled. Don't worry, Mom. Victoria is great. Besides, marriage, isn't it the same with anyone? You can't just look at superficial emotions. You have to consider the underlying benefits. That's what you and Dad taught me. My mother was speechless at my words, sighed deeply, and hung up. I looked up at the sparsely scattered stars in the sky, wondering when exactly I had become this way. As if my world only consisted of the words benefit and meaning. Cold and orderly, rational yet hypocritical, like a high-precision instrument programmed for everything. Over the next few days, I was swamped with work at the office. When I finally looked up from a pile of documents, my secretary knocked cautiously on the door. Mr. Clark, there's a lady here to see you. She says she's delivering. Before she could finish, a loud voice preempted her, reaching my ears urgently sincere. I'm here to give you an invitation. Looking up, sure enough, it was Scarlett Ashworth again. She smugly pulled out a gold-embossed invitation and placed it on my desk, her tone arrogant. Liam and I are holding our wedding. You're welcome to attend. Time is running out for you. After our wedding, my whole heart will be devoted to him. If you come begging for my forgiveness then, it'll be too late. I couldn't believe that she, the one who broke off our engagement and attempted a three-way relationship, now expected me to beg her forgiveness. I chuckled, opened the invitation, raised an eyebrow at the printed date, May 10th, and casually tossed it into the nearby trash bin. Well, thank you for thinking so highly of me, but I'm not fortunate enough to deserve such a fine marriage. You should save it for Mr. Miller. Seeing her meticulously prepared invitation ruthlessly discarded, Scarlett's face flushed red and white with anger. She pointed at me, her fingertip trembling. You utterly shameless. You've wasted this final chance. She was incoherent. But I was busy dealing with work matters and the guest list Victoria had sent me, and truly had no time for her anymore. I rubbed my temples, my voice weary. Scarlett Ashworth, I've told you many times I have no lingering feelings for you. If you acted normally, our families could maintain their business relationship. But if you continue to approach me with these ridiculous ideas, then I can only say that the cooperation between our families ends here. Scarlett was a flower sheltered in a greenhouse since childhood, completely clueless and uninterested in industry developments. Her information was so outdated she likely still thought my family was just some unsophisticated nouveau riche clan. She failed to consider that several generations had passed. Hearing my words, Scarlett looked even more humiliated and felt compelled to regain some ground. "You think I'm afraid of you? Fine. Terminated. The Ashworth family is large and established. Do you think we need your poultry business? If you have the guts, cut off our entire funding chain." Seeing her determined expression, I nodded, my fingers tapping away as I sent an email through the company's internal network. "All right. As you wish." Scarlett was eventually summoned away by a phone call from her family. I don't know what was said, but she left in a hurry, shooting me a venomous glare before departing. "Sincere, Clark. Just you wait. Who would wait for her?" Fortunately, she and Liam didn't cause any more trouble for a long time afterward. Peacefully, the wedding day finally arrived. To avoid traffic jams, I had arranged for the motorcade early on. But the world is often small. On the way to pick up the bride, I actually encountered Scarlett and Liam. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, but then, seeing me dressed as a groom followed by a long convoy of cars, her face instantly darkened. "Sincere, Clark. What is the meaning of this? Are you trying to usurp Liam's position? I told you we can continue seeing each other, but the wedding ceremony is only for Liam. What's with your outfit? Are you deliberately trying to upset Liam?" I glanced over without saying anything. It was my driver who cheerfully handed over 2 wedding favors. "Today is also our young master's wedding day. Please share in the joy." Scarlett was stunned. Him? Getting married? Then she scoffed. "How is that possible? Who else would he possibly want to marry besides me? I bet he just wants to crash my wedding but is too embarrassed to say it." The driver fell silent, likely understanding why I chose to remain quiet throughout. At this moment, Scarlett hefted the gifts in her hands, feeling their significant weight. She immediately tore one open, pulling out a solid gold bar and a Patek Philippe watch. Her eyes turned green with envy. "You're giving things like this away as wedding favors?" Her shock and envy seemed genuine. Liam, standing beside her, looked uncomfortable and quickly put his arm around her shoulder. "It's all right, Lin. When I make big money, we'll have this kind of extravagance too. Even more generous than him." Scarlett forced a smile at his words and carefully put the items back in the bag. "Okay, I'll wait for the day you make big money." Just then, the driver nodded to me. "Young master, Ms. Windsor is almost ready." I gestured for him to proceed, but unexpectedly, Scarlett's motorcade started following ours. It seemed she was convinced this was all just a charade orchestrated by me. If that's the case, let them follow. As our cars majestically rolled into the Windsor estate, I clearly sensed some hesitation in Scarlett's following motorcade. I paid them no mind, merely adjusting my attire one last time before stepping out of the car. A red carpet dozens of meters long stretched from my feet up to the steps. As I walked forward, I could hear Scarlett and Liam whispering behind me. "Isn't this the Windsor place? Is he marrying Victoria Windsor? No way. Impossible. Why would the Windsors approve of him? Besides, Victoria's reputation is terrible. He would never marry her, but the moment the main doors opened, everyone fell silent. Victoria, wearing a handcrafted white bridal gown, walked towards me, several attendants helping with her train. She was stunningly beautiful. She smiled at me, and I naturally extended my arm for her to take. The movement was smooth and effortless, startling Scarlett, who rushed towards me frantically. You're really getting married? To Victoria Windsor?" I feigned ignorance. "Isn't it obvious? I've let you see what you wanted to know, Miss Ashworth. Can you please step aside now? We need to get to the venue." Perhaps Scarlett had truly never imagined that I, her previously devoted boyfriend, would one day leave her completely. Her eyes reddened, and right there in front of Victoria she tried to grab my hand, only for me to dodge again. "Could you please stop trying to grab people?" Even Liam looked uncomfortable. He stepped forward to pull her back, but Scarlett violently shrugged him off. "Stay out of this, Sincere. How could you marry someone else? I'm the one who grew up with you, the one with 20 years of history. I'm the one who was engaged to you." So she did remember those things. Given how readily she got married to Liam, I thought she had forgotten all about it. I frowned, worried her erratic behavior might harm Victoria, and instinctively shielded her behind me. Unexpectedly, this action wounded Scarlett further. I know you're angry, you want revenge. But you can't just marry anyone. You know Victoria's reputation. She changes men more often than clothes. Marrying her will ruin you. Watch your mouth." I finally lost my patience, glancing worriedly at Victoria's expression. "Victoria's wonderful in every way. What happens between us is none of your business. I've said it many times, and this is the last time. There is nothing between us anymore. Stop bothering me and my wife." As the word wife left my lips, Scarlett visibly swayed. Her eyes were red, and she looked like she wanted to say more, but I had already helped Victoria into the car, disappearing completely from her sight. Scarlett's conspicuous wedding car followed us all the way to the wedding venue. Through the car window, I saw her distorted face and felt a surge of annoyance. Victoria, however, was calm. She squeezed my hand. "What, feeling sorry for her?" "Sorry?" I scoffed. "I'm worried she'll cause a scene and delay the ceremony." Victoria raised an eyebrow and suddenly leaned close to my ear. "Then don't try to stop me later." Before I could process her meaning, the car door opened, and Scarlett rushed over. She reached out to grab my arm, but Victoria slapped her hand away. "Excuse me, miss," Victoria beamed, but her voice was ice cold. "Touching another woman's husband comes with consequences." The word husband made Scarlett's face turn pale. "Who do you think you are, Sincere, and I have 20 years of history. Who are you to interfere?" I was about to speak, but Victoria stepped in front of me. 20 years and it didn't work out. Seems like fate has good judgment. Scarlett raised her hand to strike, but Victoria caught her wrist. Slap, a resounding slap, silenced the entire crowd. Scarlett clutched her face, eyes wide with disbelief. "How dare you? Why wouldn't I dare?" Victoria flicked her hand. "This slap is to teach you some basic decency. A married woman still harassing her ex-fiancé? Your Ashworth family's upbringing is truly something to behold." I watched Victoria's swift, clean actions with great interest from the side. Previously, I only thought she had contrasting sides. Now, I found it excellent. That bold, passionate streak in her core was something I had always admired but could never attain. As I was lost in the pleasant surprise Victoria provided, Scarlett suddenly turned to me, tears appearing instantly. "Sincere, are you just going to stand there and watch her hit me?" I nodded, the partiality evident in my tone. "Yes. My wife just happens to have such a lively and cheerful personality, enjoys a bit of roughhousing. Isn't she adorable?" I turned back to Victoria. "Did you hurt your hand?" Victoria feigned injury, holding out her hand. "A little." I bent down and kissed her slightly red palm. "Let me handle rough work like this next time." Scarlett looked like she had swallowed a fly. You two," she suddenly screamed hysterically. "Sincere, Clark, you will regret this." Liam finally couldn't watch anymore, and hesitantly came over to pull her away. Lin, we should get to the hotel." "Go where?" Scarlett shoved him off. "Look at the extravagance of their wedding. Now look at your pathetic setup out of everything. Arranging the wedding cars was the only thing I asked you to handle, and you messed it up like this." Liam's face turned shades of red and white. Only then did I notice that the few wedding cars behind them were standard brands, indeed looking shabby compared to our fleet. Victoria suddenly exclaimed, "Ah, it's your wedding day too. What a coincidence." She waved over the accompanying steward. "Go to the cellar and get 2 bottles of champagne for them. Consider it my wedding gift." This remark was like rubbing salt into Scarlett's wound. She trembled with rage, grabbing Liam to leave. "Let's go, let this despicable pair enjoy themselves." Watching their retreating figures fleeing in disarray, I let out a long breath. Victoria poked my cheek. "Feel better?" I caught her hand and kissed it. "Much better." The master of ceremonies came over to remind us it was time to enter. Victoria linked her arm through mine and whispered suddenly, "Actually, I'm a little nervous." I was taken aback for a second. This woman who had boldly cornered me at my company entrance now had sweaty palms. Nervous about what? I teased her deliberately. "Afraid I'll run off." She glared at me. "Afraid you'll think I'm fierce, and afraid you'll think I lack manners." I burst out laughing and, under the gaze of everyone, kissed her. "Why follow so many rules? You're wonderful, very cute." The wedding proceeded smoothly. During the ring exchange, I noticed a few figures peering curiously from the entrance guests invited by Scarlett's side. It seemed they had all come over to watch the spectacle. Victoria saw them too and winked at me. "Looks like someone's wedding reception is going to be empty." I shrugged indifferently. "What's it got to do with me?" During the evening banquet, my secretary quietly informed me that fewer than 10 tables were occupied at Scarlett's reception, mostly Liam's relatives. The celebrities and bands she had hired at great expense had all come over to perform at our wedding, saying they didn't want to miss the city's grandest wedding of the year. Hearing this, Victoria laughed so hard she collapsed into my arms. Serves her right for stealing my marriage partner. I gently pinched her cheek. Shouldn't you be thanking her now? If she hadn't self-destructed, how would I have ended up with such a beautiful wife? Victoria suddenly grew quiet, her eyes sparkling as she looked at me. "Sincere, did you really want to marry me?" The question made my heart tremble. I carefully considered my feelings and finally reached a definite conclusion. Yes, I wanted to marry her. I admit initially I had no expectations for marriage, believing life would be the same regardless of who I spent it with. Even agreeing to Victoria's proposal at first was merely because I felt the alliance between our families was more advantageous than detrimental. But every meeting and conversation revealed that she was different. She was flamboyant and unrestrained, exuding a deep-seated dissatisfaction with convention. I lowered my head and kissed her, murmuring between our lips, "I wanted to marry you, sincerely." Spending these few days together, I realized Victoria was nothing like the person described by outsiders. Everyone in our circle said she was uneducated, empty-headed, just a spendthrift heiress. But she had a sharp perspective on issues, even analyzing economic trends cogently. She was definitely not just an empty facade. At the dining table, Victoria noticed my gaze and realized she might have said too much. She leaned back nonchalantly. "You want to ask why my reputation in the circle is so terrible when I'm clearly not that bad, right?" After a moment's thought, I nodded. "I was a bit curious, yes, but you spread those rumors yourself, didn't you? What I'm curious about is, why?" "Oh, you're quite sharp, not like those idiots I've met before." Victoria threw up her hands. "You know, the Windsor fortune isn't small. It's hard for me to tell who's genuine and who's fake. So you made yourself seem incompetent to secretly observe who was stabbing you in the back?" Victoria responded with an, "Uh-huh," acknowledging my deduction. "Then what about the rumors that you changed men like clothes?" Victoria sputtered out the coffee she was drinking, waving her hands dismissively. "I certainly didn't spread that one. It's just that most of my information network operates in places like nightclubs and high-end KTVs. Occasionally, a few people would run into me there, and the rumors naturally spread. I couldn't be bothered to explain, and it actually helped solidify my persona, so I let them talk. For some reason, I felt a pang of sympathy for her. Victoria was 2 years younger than me, yet these rumors had persisted for years. It meant she had faced this intense scrutiny and turmoil alone from a much younger age. I couldn't imagine how much slander she had endured, how many hardships she had suffered to get to where she was today. After dropping Victoria off at her company after breakfast, I headed to my own office. Just after finishing a meeting, I stepped out of the conference room to see Scarlett Ashworth standing at the end of the hallway. Her eyes were red and swollen, her makeup smudged, and she looked so haggard she was almost unrecognizable. Upon seeing me, she immediately stumbled towards me. Sincere, I sidestepped her lunge, frowning. "Is there something you need? I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong." Her voice trembled, tears streaming down her face. "Can you please spare the Ashworth family?" My father was so angry he ended up in the hospital. The company is in chaos. All our partners have pulled their investments. I adjusted my cuffs, my tone calm. Business is like a battlefield. Isn't this normal? But this is all because of that email you sent. She suddenly became agitated, gripping my sleeve tightly. Sincere, we've known each other for 20 years. Can you be so heartless? I pried her fingers off one by one. Scarlett Ashworth, who was it that said, if you have the guts, cut off our entire funding chain? I also recall saying that from now on we go our separate ways. Her face turned deathly pale, her lips trembling, unable to speak. Finally, with a thud, she knelt before me. I'm begging you. I was ignorant before. I promise I'll treat you well from now on. Do you remember? When I had a fever as a child, you carried me to the hospital. You said you'd always protect me. My steps faltered. Thinking she had a chance, she quickly crawled over and hugged my legs. Yes, you remember, don't you? We have so many memories. How can you just throw them away? I looked down at her pathetic state and suddenly found it laughable. I slowly crouched down to meet her gaze. Scarlett Ashworth, do you remember your birthday last year? I also had a fever, 39 degrees Celsius, 102 Fahrenheit. I didn't want to disappoint you, so I stayed up all night preparing a surprise. But then you canceled our plans with a single sentence. Later, I found out you went to be with Liam. There are many, many incidents like this. Do you need me to recount them one by one? The color drained from her face, bit by bit. I stood up, brushing off non-existent dust from my trousers. I think it's time you understood. Many things I simply chose not to argue with you about. But that doesn't mean I didn't know. Don't talk to me about memories now. You don't deserve to. As the elevator doors opened, I heard her heart-wrenching scream behind me. Sincere Clark, you'll get what's coming to you. I smiled and stepped into the elevator. Retribution? My life couldn't be better right now. When I got home that evening, Victoria was curled up on the sofa eating ice cream. Seeing me return, she ran over barefoot and hugged me tightly. Heard there was some drama at the office today? I gently pinched her nose. How are you so well informed? Of course, she waved her phone proudly. The whole company is talking about how CEO Clark's ex-fiancée knelt and begged for reconciliation, only to be ruthlessly rejected. I carried her to the sofa. Jealous? She rolled her eyes, popping a spoonful of ice cream into my mouth. Am I that type of person? The ice cream was cloyingly sweet. I leaned down and kissed the corner of her mouth, still dotted with cream. It's okay if you are. You're lovable no matter what. With my side of things settled, it was time for the Windsor family situation to conclude. Because of our marriage, many lurking figures started to get restless, wanting to strike before Victoria could fully consolidate her position. In the office, Victoria tossed a stack of documents in front of me, tapping the audit report on top. Third Uncle Walter embezzled $20 million from the subsidiary last month. He really thinks he can treat me like a figurehead. I opened the file. It detailed the flow of funds, even including photos of Walter Windsor with his mistress at a hotel. I closed the file. What's the plan? Victoria stood up, her black suit dress outlining sharp, imposing lines. Tomorrow's board meeting. I want them to cough up every cent they swallowed. The next day, in the top-floor conference room of Windsor Corporation, Walter Windsor was slamming the table and shouting, Victoria Windsor, on what grounds did you freeze my authority? I'm your elder. Victoria sat at the head of the table, calmly twirling a pen. Uncle Walter, on March 16, 2019, how much did you lose at the casinos in Macau? The conference room instantly fell deathly silent. Need I remind you? Victoria pressed a button on the remote, and bank statements appeared on the projection screen. $23 million, taken from the Windsor Education Fund. The other board members gasped and murmured amongst themselves. Only second Uncle Stanley Windsor suddenly interjected, Victoria, dear, what are you doing? Don't air our dirty laundry in public. Victoria shot him a look, her smile not reaching her eyes. Uncle Stanley, your own house is on fire and you still have time to worry about others? Do you want me to publicly reveal how you transferred that piece of land in the South District to your mistress at a low price last year? I timely handed over another file, which Victoria casually tossed onto the conference table. Here are the details of the company funds borrowed by all of you over the years. I'll give you 2 choices. She held up one finger. 1. Repay the principal plus interest within 3 days. A second finger joined the first. 2. I'll have Captain Davies from the Economic Crime Investigation Unit invite you all for tea. Walter's face turned livid. You're trying to drive us to our deaths. Victoria suddenly laughed, a smile that sent chills down the spine. Uncle Walter, your grandson's expenses studying in the UK aren't cheap, are they? What if the evidence of his mother embezzling public funds were sent to his school? Walter Windsor leaped to his feet, nearly knocking over his chair. You dare threaten me, His words trailed off. Victoria didn't interrupt, just watched him quietly, smiling. Previously, those present were unsure of Victoria's temperament and capabilities, treating her like an easily manipulated novice. But now, faced with concrete evidence laid bare, no one dared gamble on where her limits lay. Ultimately, it was Walter Windsor who backed down first. I'll pay it back. I'll pay it back tomorrow. Less than 10 minutes later, only the 2 of us remained in the conference room. Victoria loosened her collar, revealing a hint of exhaustion. I walked up behind her and gently massaged her temples. Well done. She leaned against me, her voice muffled. Sincere, was I too harsh? Business is war. I kissed the top of her head. Mercy to the enemy is cruelty to yourself. Victoria suddenly turned and wrapped her arms around my waist. Thank goodness you were here to back me up. 3 days later, every single dollar was returned to the company accounts. At the board meeting, Victoria announced the establishment of a supervisory committee, with me personally in charge. She scanned the room, her gaze sharp as a knife. From now on, if anyone dares to reach out their hand, I'll chop off their claws that night, after the celebration dinner. Victoria was slightly tipsy, murmuring against my chest, "Husband, am I amazing?" I picked her up and carried her towards the bedroom. Chairwoman Windsor is truly awe-inspiring. She nuzzled against my neck and whispered suddenly, "Actually, I'm so tired. My dad passed away so many years ago. It's been a long time since I've acted cute with anyone, let alone felt this secure resting in someone's arms. They all scheme against me, just waiting for a chance to ruin my reputation, find fault, and kick me out of the Windsor family so they can swallow everything my dad left me. At my most anxious, I didn't even dare accept a banana from my own house staff. I was afraid they'd poison me. I had to make myself seem more useless, more incapable, so they would lower their guard, thinking I wasn't a threat. My heart softened. I placed her gently on the bed and wiped away the tears glistening at the corners of her eyes. You've worked so hard all these years. From now on, I'll be by your side. I can't promise to shield you from everything, but I will definitely be your most solid support. Whatever you want to do, I'll face it with you." Victoria smiled hazily, suddenly tugging my tie to pull me closer, slowly removing my glasses. "You'll do anything with me? Then I want to have a baby with you. One as smart as both of us." I chuckled softly and kissed her lips, swallowing her murmurs. Outside the window, the stars shone brightly, but the warmth in my arms was more captivating than any power or status. I think it's time I retracted my earlier statement. How could life possibly be the same, no matter who you spend it with?